Tonight, chaos in the replacement mechanism public forum as the protesters forced their way into the venue. TVB's general manager Stephen Chan found not guilty of bribery charges. Thank you for watching.
Also in the news, Gillard's Malaysian deal sunk by the High Court, and China's moon probe has been given extra exploration missions.
But first tonight, the final public forum of the replacement mechanism turns ugly after the members of the People Power and League of Social Democrats successfully made it into the venue. The Secretary for Constitutional Affairs, Stephen Lam, says he respects different opinions being expressed by the public. Hong Kong correspondent John Wise sent us this report.
The public forum has held at the Science Museum in Tsim Sha Tsui was to discuss the government's proposal to scrap by-elections for popularity elected lawmakers. The group threw paper planes and called for the Secretary of Constitutional Affairs, Stephen Lam, to step down. Mr. Lam also commended their actions. He said a security guard has been injured and the venue damaged by the group.
I would like to emphasize that Hong Kong is a civilized society. We respect the rule of law here, and the freedom of expression is also respected, but at the same time we should refrain from instigating damage.
John White, HK News, Hong Kong.
Stephen Chan, the General Manager of TVB, has been found not guilty of fraud and bribery charges. 51-year-old Mr. Chan was alleged to have taken an outside job that paid him 112,000 Hong Kong dollars without TVB's knowledge. Judge Poon Soon Tung said the broadcasters must have been aware of the arrangement, and Mr. Chan said it was naive for the station to think that he would take the job for nothing. Mr. Chan was also accused of deceiving TVB and 5 actresses by concealing a 300,000 Hong Kong dollar payment for their appearances at an event. Chaos broke out at the courts as Mr. Chan departed, as there were too many journalists waiting for this story.
Back home, the Australian Prime Minister Gillard's Malaysian deal on refugees is now dead in the water after the High Court has ruled that Malaysia doesn't have adequate laws to secure asylum seekers' human rights once they arrive. Federal Immigration Minister Chris Bowen has described the High Court's decision as a disappointing one. But on the other hand, human rights activist Jerry Jojatos is happy with the outcome.
The historic outcome this week as the nation's highest court has ruled 6-1 against the Malaysian refugee deal, which forced Immigration Minister Chris Bowen to rework his plan. Human Rights Alliance Jerry Jojatos is happy for the asylum seekers in Christmas Island.
The High Court outcome was not unexpected, it was actually expected. People like myself have been speaking with government, and so have others, for many months. We have put it to government on a number of occasions that if tested in the High Court, they would lose, that what they were doing was actually unlawful in terms of the Malaysian solution, and especially under sections 232 and 233 of the Migration Act.
West Australian Premier Colin Barnett has also attacked the Labour Party for sending unaccompanied children to Malaysia in the state parliament this week.
It lacks any sense of humanity to send unaccompanied children to a third country, Malaysia in this case, and it is to the eternal shame of the Labour Party.
However, the Federal Immigration Minister Chris Bowen warns that this ruling from the High Court could encourage more asylum seekers to risk the dangerous journey coming to Australia. In the press conference, he expresses disappointment, calling it a significant blow to our efforts to break the people smugglers' business model. Shibs, DHK News.
The state government has officially opened the Binningup water desalination plant 3 months ahead of schedule this Friday. Water Minister Bill Marmion has said the plant will be able to provide 50 billion litres of fresh water every year to the Integrated Water Supply Scheme, easing the pressure of the dams and groundwater supply, which have recently been suffering from rainfall lower than average. The opposition leader Eric Ripper said it is good news that the desalination plant is working, but he said that the state government still hasn't given enough priorities to protect people's living standards.
Made the announcement, we made the decision, and we set aside the funds. So it's a good thing. I remember back in Jeff Gallop's first term, when we were talking about the water crisis, Colin Burnett denied that there was a water crisis and then backflipped and went to the election campaign in 2005 with an uncosted, unfunded and unfeasible Kimberley Canal project.
The construction of the desalination plant has stayed within the $955 million budget.
The state opposition has criticised the Barnett government for rushing into an education staffing policy while first preparing schools for the change. Shadow Education Minister Ben Wyatt says an Auditor General's report released today found the Barnett government has failed to address the risk associated with the schools being given the responsibilities recruiting teaching staff themselves as independent public schools.
The Auditor General's report examining the Education Department's staffing management procedures was released at Parliament on Wednesday. The report focused on teacher staff management in the Perth metropolitan and remote WA areas. The opposition says the report reveals severe weaknesses in objective and performance measures and an underestimation of costs involved with new staffing processes. They also criticised the Education Department for not using key data to assess the efficiency and effectiveness of its employment procedures. Shadow Minister Ben Wyatt says the department, in its rush away from the central placement system, was slow to act after 5 reviews found flaws in the current arrangement. He says Education Minister Liz Constable forced through her system of decentralised placement without making sure the likely risks are managed and the pitfalls anticipated. She responded saying the report has given the department direction in setting objectives and managing the risk of change.
I don't think that you can impose on any education system major change, such as massive numbers of schools becoming independent without doing it in the way we have, making it voluntary, selecting those schools we believe are ready, and then helping them to set up the processes that they need, such as the processes of selecting their own staff and profiling their own staff, managing a one-line budget and so on.
There are now 207 independent public schools under the current system. The Department of Education argues the report doesn't reflect its benefits, whether principals are entitled to greater responsibility to manage schools' resources and curriculum and staffing flexibility to suit each school's needs. The debate continues. Johanna, Lettenmaier, DHK News.
To international stories now, and China's unmanned spacecraft Chang'e 2 has been assigned extra missions as there is still fuel left over in its reserve tanks. Chang'e 2 has now reached an orbit about 1 million miles from Earth.
Chang'e 2 has arrived at what is called the second Lagrange point, which is where the gravity from both Sun and Earth balances the orbit of the satellite. During its mission, Chang'e 2 has took high-resolution images of the moon's sinus iridum, or Bay of Rainbows. It has also been using special detectors to analyze solar winds in the Earth's magnetic field. Although the probe was only supposed to be in space for 6 months, it has been assigned more tasks because it still has fuel in the reserve tanks. Isabel, Huther, DHK News.
Sports news is next with Camilo Mejia.
Thanks guys, and welcome to Evening Sport. To tennis and the illustrious US Open, where top seeds Caroline Wozniacki and Novak Djokovic have cruised into the 3rd round. The world number 1, Djokovic, smashed unseeded Carlos Berlocq 6-0, 6-0, 6-2. The Argentine was given a standing ovation from the center court crowd when he finally managed to hold his serve in the 15th game of the match. Wozniacki was at her impressive best in the 2nd round match, beating Antraxarus 6-2, 6-0. Well, that's all from Evening Sport, and now back to Anna, who's got a special announcement to make.
Thanks Cam, and before we go, it's a special night here on DHK News because today is Ivan's birthday. Ivan's been working for this channel for more than 4 years as the senior news anchor and executive producer. It's a great honour to sit beside you every week and present the news, and from all of us here at DHK, I wish you a happy birthday.
Oh, Camilo!
Great job, Ivan. Keep it up.
Well, thanks guys. I want to say thank you to those people who was working in front of the desk and behind the desk, worked so hard for the news, especially to you who are watching. And a usual sign off, that's how the world looks tonight.
Remember to join our Facebook page at the link below.
You're also welcome to join my page, search Ivan Leung and click like. Thanks for watching, happy Father's Day and good night.
Good night.
Good night.